Start the recording up. Welcome to the October edition of the Virtual Users Group. We have Baker Hull and Philip Sear on today to give us an overview and I believe a demo of the software-defined data center. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys and take it from here.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. My name is Philip Searles. Baker and I have been going to a few VM user group conferences over the past little while to give this same presentation. So fundamentally, this is about extending the software-defined data center that VMware provides through their features and software products into a hardware infrastructure base and a demonstration we put together for VMworld back in September to demonstrate how this could work and try and touch on some of the value propositions of this. Just some background on myself first. I'm currently a consulting technical specialist. I work in the Advanced Solutions Group with Baker. My current specialties are in networking and software-defined technologies for storage and networking. I've been doing this been in the business for a while now, about over 30 years. Started off in the mainframe days in large data centers and done everything from there to the current world of virtualization and x86 technologies and everything we're facing these days. So it's been an interesting trip along the way. Baker?
Yep. Hi. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, Baker Hull. So as Phil mentioned, he and I are on the same technical team called Advanced Solutions Group. That we're a North America-focused team of subject matter experts, and my particular area is virtualization, particularly around VMware and virtual desktop infrastructure, and also hyper-converged. So I think we've both been in the industry about 32, 33 years. Phil is no worse for the wear. It's taken a bigger toll on me. So Phil has the fountain of youth somewhere, but anyway, yeah, so we've both been in a variety of industries, both from like the end user standpoint to business partner, as well as working for a major OEM, and I did about a 5-year stint at VMware in between there. So yeah, that's our background, and we'll move forward with the rest of the presentation and the agenda.
So from agenda point of view, we're going to cover a few key areas. We're going to try and I'll go into here. We're going to look at from the demonstration point of view that we put on at VMworld. We're going to first start off with a problem statement we were trying to solve, highlighting the issues that this demonstration was trying to address. And why we're trying to address it. We'll go over the environment we put up and what was involved in that environment, some of the things we learned from putting this together. We'll then go through an example of what kind of hardware and software automations exist within the demonstration. And then we'll view some of the potential uses of this can be addressed in, and we'll actually review recent product announcement that will highlight where we're going with this. As Kevin had mentioned at the beginning of the session, we were going to do a product demonstration. Unfortunately, it's been a while since the VMworld event back in September, and due to customer POC requirements, half the demonstration equipment has been ripped away to work on a POC. So if required, we can go look at some minor points of the demonstration, but unfortunately it kind of got corrupted on us. Anyway, sorry about that, but we'll go through what we did from a slide point of view, and we can handle questions and answers on that. From a demonstration point of view, the problem we were trying to solve, as I said at the beginning, was VMware has done an excellent job in automating and virtualizing the VMware infrastructure. It is quite extensive, from both compute virtualization to network virtualization with NSX, storage virtualization from base storage and including especially VSAN, and then with VRealize orchestration and automation, all the functionings within that structure can be handled quite effectively, giving a strong life cycle capability from starting a VM to terminating a VM at the end. The challenge gets down to physical infrastructure. So although we all love virtualized technology, there's still real technology underneath all this. And that technology has a life cycle as well. It has to be ingested, worked with, and then decommissioned at the end. And what we're trying to determine is, could we extend the infrastructure that's providing the automation control of the VMware virtualized environment into the hardware-based infrastructure so that there was awareness and capability to interact from a operational perspective, the two environments together. This would allow customers to more effectively ingest technology, integrate it into the virtualized environment, use it, deploy it, monitor it both from a virtual and physical point of view, and then remove it at the end as it goes end of life cycle. So that's what we were trying to show. So the demonstration we put up was a number of compute nodes, a mix of storage SAN technologies, networking from a physical networking point of view, and NSX from a virtual networking point of view. We ran VMware vSAN to give both virtual and physical SAN to give physical storage capabilities in this environment, in a single rack to show how all this would work. Okay, so I'll turn it back to Baker to view the software structure of the demo.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So this is kind of the bill of materials, if you will, from a software and some of the hardware on the left-hand side that we utilize for building out this proof of concept or proof of technology, I guess you would really call it. So, yeah, one of the things we had to do was I hate to use the term cobble together, but we had to use equipment we basically already had in place in our lab there in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we also had to make some decisions about how to tier and provide SLAs that would kind of mimic a real customer rollout of a hybrid or a private cloud environment from a storage perspective. So how do you classify storage? It wasn't really that important from a proof of technology standpoint, just to demo at VMworld. But, you know, decision points about here's the storage I have on hand, or the storage I'm going to purchase for this environment, and how do I classify, you know, a bronze, silver, gold level of storage, which is basically what you look at within a VMware environment. That's how those different layers of storage are defined and described, both in terms of performance and possibly in terms of the other resiliency services built around that. How bulletproof did I build that storage array? How much DR is built around that? So those are key aspects of VMware's cloud stack and software-defined data center as you look at it from a storage perspective. But we did include in the demo, and we've actually introduced some changes between 2 months ago at VMworld and today in terms of some of the components that we have in this this environment, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But certainly we utilized Virtual SAN 6.2, a hybrid array, as part of our storage. We also utilized StoreWise V7000, iSCSI attached, and even some Microsoft storage server just based on a Windows server system as another storage array that we utilize probably mostly for the management stack that all of this software is running on. So utilizing really the full stack here from a VMware perspective, pretty much everything you have in the SDDC stack, the VRealize and vCloud suite of products. The only thing we didn't really delve into was the what used to be called chargeback and look back. We didn't really get too involved in the metering aspects for being able to assign chargeback or look back accounting to the end user for how much resource they're utilizing. But that's something we could easily plug in going forward as well to give IT a better understanding, and also the end user groups a better understanding of how much resource they're taking, and actually provide a catalog of services and related costs at the, the capacity per gigabyte, or the amount of CPU resources, memory resources, DR resources, and such. So that would allow you to build a really good look back to the business about the value that IT is providing and the cost of providing those different tiers of services. So anyway, the big news for us, I think, is the XClarity plugins that we have to the VMware SDDC stack to make this more of a fewer points of contact from an administration standpoint. We want to be able to provide either the vCenter virtualization-centric administrator or the cloud-centric administrator, if those are two different groups and two different people, a view into the environment and to be able to deploy things in an easy, predictable, scriptable manner without having to jump around between 10 different GUIs or interfaces amongst all these various tools. So we've done that with the work we've done around the APIs that are exposed both in XClarity as well as in the VMware stack to provide a much better experience and usability feature set for these virtualization and cloud administrators. So at the bottom of the stack, we use, again, primarily our 1U 2-socket systems, the 3550 M5 servers, Broadwell-based systems, as well as our top-of-rack switching, and we also used some Flex X240 M5 compute nodes as well as part of this overall environment. So some of the lessons learned and experiences that we had with this whole setup, it took a little bit more hardware than we were planning on, because obviously, in addition to the management stack, we used some storage that was server-centric, hyper-converged, that we had to account for. And also to make this more realistic, we had to have donor systems, if you will, or target systems to be able to deploy things to in terms of doing bare metal ESX deployments and configuration patterns to be able to prep hardware for the installation of ESX and have that configured the way we want it and need it to be in the cloud environment. So there were some lessons learned there. Don't try to get out too cheaply from a hardware perspective. There are some resources required, and you do want to have separate management clusters from your actual compute workload clusters, certainly as a best practice in an SDDC environment. So keep those two environments separate so that one does not impact the other, and you have kind of a pristine, protected environment from a management standpoint with the entire SDDC and XClarity stack. Also important to keep consistent as far as if you're going to provide tiers of service, then you don't want to intermix, for example, Haswell and Broadwell systems in the same cluster, even though VMware makes that easy to do for us with EBC clustering technology. That's kind of a bad idea if I'm going to advertise and promote different levels of storage or services and compute. So I want to keep those various tiers separate within each class of service and not intermingle those. So again, that requires more hardware as well. If I want to build a Haswell-based compute cluster, then I need at least realistically 3 or 4 of those Haswell-based systems. And same for Broadwell. I've got to have more hardware to be able to accomplish that and not to really cheat, if you will, on the service levels I'm saying that I have and I'm advertising and providing as a service. And then, of course, the integration. So there was a learning curve there, really integrating the entire stack. So for log insights to provide meaningful data, that means we've got to have the connectors or the linkages between all the various systems, vCenter, XClarity, as well as the individual servers. So we've got to have all that set up and configured properly in order for log insight to give us meaningful data about what's going on in the entire stack, the entire environment through every step. So we had a compressed schedule to get all of this done, really about an 8-week schedule to gather hardware and get all the software stack installed and running, including NSX. So it was a daunting task, and we did leverage some of our our friends from VMware that were SMEs already on the SDDC and NSX software to help us out and get us jump-started there. So if we go to the next slide, Phil will talk about the basic integration.
Thanks, Baker. So from a basic integration point of view, one of the key leveraging factors here is use of a product called XClarity. XClarity is a hardware management application deployed as a pre-built VM to deploy on VMware or KVM as required. One of the key things about XClarity is not so much the tooling itself. So XClarity was originally built to provide a hardware management facility for our hardware. All manufacturers kind of do the same thing. So without anything else, you still need a centralized place to control and manage hardware. So that was the base of XClarity. But as we built it, there were some key things we wanted to ensure we did for futures and future capabilities. One was to make XClarity an agentless technology, which means given some basic capabilities, XClarity will take control of hardware from bare metal without any other agents required. Even once an OS or hypervisor is installed, XClarity is still doing the same level of interaction control without any additional agents on the OS or hypervisor, which makes it a fairly transparent way to manage infrastructure. The other thing we want to do is make sure it was flexible. So XClarity was built with programming APIs, primarily REST APIs, both northbound and southbound out of this application. So as we deployed more REST API capable programming interfaces in our hardware and more of the management infrastructure from a software point of view opened up to use more REST APIs for inter-application communication, XClarity would be able to integrate in both directions. And that was the key point of this XClarity build, was to allow this point of communication and interactions both with the hardware directly and with other applications from a management point of view. And this will be leveraged for this demo. So XClarity is talking to our servers at an agentless level to get to UEFI and to control hardware configuration and actions and deployments, power on, power off, all those kinds of things, mounting virtual media kinds of things. The XClarity application also interacts with, or can interact with our network switches. It can interact with some of the chassis management technologies, and we're continuing to expand this control out to more and more hardware infrastructure. So from one central agentless place, we can control all the aspects of hardware within our purview to deal with things. Then more importantly, we take this and present it up to REST APIs to an application like, or environment like VMware, whether it's vCenter or the VRealize automation suite, to allow it to interact with our hardware through XClarity using a standard REST API protocol. From a more basic point of view, it also provides basic integration into vCenter from a pure operational view. So the next few set of slides are just going to highlight some of the key things you can get from a vCenter point of view to show the kinds of information XClarity is providing up to the VMware infrastructure on which it can be automated. So from a pure hardware point of view, it does basically things like, what is the hardware serial number, inventory kind of information, base firmware information, and passing of any major alerts or events. This way, VMware Center as vCenter or automation can understand what's happening at a level, a gross hardware level as far as availability or problem occurrences, and take appropriate automation as required. The next is hardware inventory. Now, hardware inventory may seem a little innocuous in the grand scheme of things, but as Baker was saying back to some of the issues we hit, ensuring that as resources are pooled in abstractions, it is important that the physical resources in that abstracted pool of resources be consistent. Be consistent from a hardware point of view, physical types of hardware, and also consistent firmware point of view, so you can ensure that that pool of resource, even though abstracted, will react in a consistent and repeatable manner. So being aware of what the hardware inventory is, and also, as this next slide shows, understanding the firmware environment to make sure that firmware is consistent across that resource pool. Also, as in most environments, firmware is something that changes more and more frequently as we move forward. So being able to be aware of the firmware level and firmware deployments in hardware, and being able to automate the upgrade, deployment, and redeployment of that firmware within a abstracted resource pool ensures a consistent, manageable environment without a lot of undue physical or person interaction. Event logs, somewhat obvious, but any kind of automation or monitoring environment needs to have access to the events going on in the physical infrastructure. It can drive things happening which will affect the abstracted world of VM, and having that done in a consistent manner is valuable from an operational point of view. Another key part of XClarity to facilitate and ensure more standard deployment of physical infrastructure from a server point of view is this concept of configuration patterns. And basically, a configuration pattern is a predefined definition of all the UEFI and physical adapter configuration parameters and settings in a single pattern. And we can support within XClarity a large number of these patterns, and can have XClarity automatically deploy and manage these patterns, or have them manually deployed as required. So whereas we wouldn't expect the VMware environment to be setting configuration patterns, hardware specialists would design and build these configuration patterns based upon workload scenarios the service would be put to. But being able to have VMware actually deploy those patterns on workloads that VMware is going to use that server infrastructure for in an automated manner does provide great simplification and consistency in the environment to do that. So I'll send it back to Baker for a discussion of the VRealize integration with us.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So what we've been talking about so far with the XClarity integration into vCenter, that's something that customers have taken advantage of for a while, and we've had that for a while, going back to even previous systems management tools that we've had, which will remain nameless at this point. But XClarity really is a leading systems management tool, and the plug-in or integrator into vCenter is something that most of our customers do take advantage of. So we realize other OEMs have similar plug-ins, and no worries there. That's a great tool, and it is valid going forward as well, whether you have a cloud or an SDDC environment or not. But one of the things we're really excited about, and just a little bit more history, as a company, if we just say the Intel server business, in System X we have a heritage with VMware that goes way back, much further than any other OEM. And we've sold, as VMware has grown and expanded their portfolio of products beyond just basic virtualization into VDI and disaster recovery solutions and cloud and such. We've also been a reseller of those software solutions as a brand within System X. But we've never really gone very far in terms of having true integration in the cloud piece, whether it's vCloud Director or now transitioning to software-defined data center and VRealize. But now for the first time, and that's I think one thing that really differentiates us and that we're excited about, is that we're moving up the stack. So the vCenter-centric stuff will stay there with XClarity and the ability to do a lot of the management from that one single pane of glass, if you will, within vCenter. For your hardware deployments, but also we're moving up the stack now to another abstraction layer that's at the top of the stack, and that is, VMware's cloud environment. So again, for those MSPs or even those end users that are more cloud-centric and focused on that layer, that abstraction layer, we now have introduced workflows via XClarity and our integration into the VMware stack at that level. And you're seeing a little bit of that now. This is where we would actually connect to the VRA or the VRealize automation appliance by clicking that link at the top, or the orchestrator client down below, and access those tools directly. And you see we get a customized interface over to the right. We get the Lenovo-based interface that gives you not only the entire stack of workflows and expandability, customizable workflows that you determine that are in the virtualization realm, but also we get the more hardware-centric, infrastructure-centric workflows that are built in and that can also be created to meet your needs. If I can page down here. And Phil, you may have to page down for me. It looks like it's not working for some reason. Thank you. Okay, so these are some of the basic integration workflows that are built in to the VRealize orchestration. And for those of you not that familiar, VRealize orchestration or the orchestrator tool, that is a part of VRealize automation. So it's built in. It's actually the set of scripts, the PowerShell scripts that are doing all the tasks under the covers. So VRealize automation is kind of the wrapper around that allows you to create and build workflows. And then those workflows are actually calling one of the hundreds or thousands of canned VRO workflows that exist underneath that. And certainly you can create additional workflows. And this is where we're providing some value here with Lenovo and XClarity by adding additional workflows over and above what the VMware gives you out of the box. So if we see a few of those here, the ability to add new vSAN instances, update a VRA host, and if we go to the next page, we can see the interface that our integration is providing here in the service catalog. So the arrows indicate some specific Lenovo hardware and networking tabs that we've added. So we have basically our own console when you integrate the Lenovo SDDC automation stack into an existing or a new VMware VRA environment. Then you get these extra tabs. You get extra functions that can be performed, everything from deploying a new host, bare metal install for ESX, applying a configuration pattern to a host to prepare that host for deployment, as well as networking as well, creating a new VLAN, configuring an individual switch port with VLAN and other networking information. So very robust set of tools all right here within the service catalog of VRealize automation without having to go and connect into a switch console or connect into the core standalone XClarity console and such. Everything's right here at your disposal to build as simple or as complex a workflow as need be. So if we page down, these are just some example workflow scenarios. These are the workflows that we actually used in our VMworld demo, and there's certainly more beyond this. But we can create cluster, delete cluster, add hosts to a cluster, remove a host, enter maintenance mode and exit maintenance mode, create a new distributed virtual switch with port groups, attach a host to distributed virtual switch, and another just additional long list of things, creating private VLANs and deleting VLANs. So those are just an example of some of the things we can do within the stack that are specific to VRealize automation and the Lenovo integration, some of those being more hardware-centric, again, with our stack. So if we go to the next page, Phil's going to walk you through some example scenarios.
Thanks, Baker. So as we were mentioning before, and as Baker has been discussing as well, the flow structures within VRA cover many of the hardware aspects that we're looking at in a data center infrastructure, and they can be handled in different ways. One of the key values of VRA is its ability to create a complex workflow from a set of more standard single function subcomponents that sit in VRO. So the screen we're looking at here just has a few examples of the kinds of things that we can do from a server point of view. The one with the arrow with the number 1 beside it is euphemistically called the master workflow. But basically, it's just a workflow that encompasses points 2, 3, and 4 on this slide, along with a few other points to workflows, to actually completely take a net new server that is powered on and physically plugged into a switch port and bring it to the point where it's a usable host in a VMware cluster. So workloads can be deployed upon it with a single click and answering a bunch of questions, as we'll see on the next slide. The other option is to go through it piece by piece. So, not every scenario is exactly the same. Building automation for a single scenario is kind of challenging and prone not to meet every requirement around. So, but for ongoing repeatable functions, VRA does allow fairly complex logic to be used. And as you tie this workflow into not only the hardware aspects, but all the VMware abstracted infrastructure and workload deployment requirements, you can build a very automated environment for a large-scale data center environment. So from a master workflow point of view, or what I like to call the Big Bang Theory, you select that work request, and you get presented with this master workload questionnaire, which basically asks, what vSphere you're working with, user IDs to access the tenant group. So once again, multi-tenant environments need to be encompassed by all these things. So you need to have, tenant-level security and access. Access to the XClarity administrator. So XClarity as a management platform can be a single management platform for a large environment, or we can have multiples of them. So you can pick which XClarity administrator you want to work with. It will provide to VMware a list of available servers to be provisioned, and you pick one through the pull down, which is in the middle of the screen there, to allow you to select what server you want to work with. You can specify specific MAC addresses, on and on. So there's a lot of detail here you can put in. At the bottom, you'll see information about distributed virtual switches to deploy, uplink groups. So when you look at the entire encompassing of server, what to deploy on there, what ESXi image to deploy, how to do the networking physically and logically to connect this server into the environment, all can be done from a single place. The other option is to do it piece by piece. So what we've also done is gone through more piece by piece, the steps that master workflow is going through, so we can see this on a more containable basis. So the first thing is, given a server is plugged in and connected and powered on, or even not powered on, plugged in at this point, once the machine's plugged in, the XClarity will be able to discover automatically these servers as they plug in. From that, we can ask it to select, discover what servers are there, give us a presentation of what servers are available, and then pick a configuration pattern or a hardware profile to deploy to that server and have that configuration pattern deploy to the server. This allows us to set from VMware how physical hardware should be configured for deployment. The next thing you typically do is take your ESXi image that you wish to use and have that deployed to the server as well. This also involves XClarity as far as doing the mounting of virtual media to that server, passing it an image to use, and any other specific information required to deploy that ESXi image. Once that's deployed, we need to connect it to the network. And this is where we start leveraging communication with physical networking devices. So even though we can physically plug a server into a network port, most data centers don't leave ports alive. So we need to actually get to a port, enable it, assign to the VLAN we want so that the server connects to the management infrastructure required for that server. So the first thing we need to do, if we have one already, is create a VLAN. In most cases, the VLAN will already exist from a management point of view, but if we needed to create a VLAN for some reason, we can go create a VLAN and then actually take that switch port that the server is plugged into and assign it to that VLAN so VMware can now manage the ESXi image on that server. To do this, once again, it looks almost exactly the same as we do with deploying the host. You select the switch that you need to manage. Obviously, at this point, you need to know which switch it is actually physically plugged into. But you can select the switch it's to be plugged into and define the VLAN ID or VLAN you want to create on that switch and give it a name if it doesn't already exist. So creating VLANs to support new workloads is available through this. And then we can take the port on that switch and assign it to that VLAN. So put that VLAN on that port as an access mode port, and that way the server now has connectivity into a network construct that is viable for that workload of that server use. And from that point of view, we can now have the physical server up, running, and ready for VMware to take control of it and deploy workloads as required. So I'll turn it back to Baker for more of a workload point of view. You on mute, Baker?
Yes, thank you. I'm just talking away here to myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, so one of the things as far as like, you know, not really even future direction, but just some of the things you can do with this that we will certainly build upon, just the basics, would be the deployment in a repeatable, predictable, and less error-prone way, multi-tier applications. So certainly this is something useful for, you know, for a customer that has a large development environment, which is, you know, part of the heritage of vCloud Director and Lab Manager going back further than that. So being able to provide platform as a service or even application as a service. So you can take these smaller workflows and use those to build together a much more complex workflow with multi-tiered applications. It may involve deploying new clusters, new hosts, new storage or access to that storage, and then layering on multiple virtual machines that have interdependencies on each other. So all that can be built into a single workflow. And you see here we just got, you know, one example of a multi-tiered application here that we just request that. We get like a two-page wizard that we click through, and then we're off to the races and allow VRA, VRO with the XClarity, Lenovo XClarity plugin to go off and do all that work on our behalf. And again, that's something we can do in a repeatable fashion, and we can build these environments all within the virtualization world. So I don't need dedicated hardware every time I need to deploy this multi-tier app. And I can have multiple, obviously, revisions of that as we go forward in a development process, moving towards test, QA, and production. So again, very flexible, a lot of things we could add to just the basic blocking and tackling of configuring hardware and deploying ESX and VMs on top of that on a one-by-one basis. So reservations and policies, looking at the next tab down in VRA. This allows us, again, we talked a little bit earlier about storage levels of service or capabilities. So here we get a kind of a single view of what I have going on. And here for this demo, we had silver and gold designated types of storage with a VSAN hybrid array as well as VRealize, I'm sorry, the StoreWise V7000, which we just, for lack of a better way of doing it, we deemed that our gold tier of storage. Not that it really was more performant at that point than the vSAN array we had stood up, but you get the idea of being able to have the different tiers of storage, and I can add to this as I bring new storage online, whether that's hyper-converged or a traditional storage array that I bring into my environment. I can carve out a piece of that new storage for this environment and assign a level. Here we've got development and production, silver and gold tiers of storage available, and I can add to that or change that, modify that at any time going forward. And I can see out to the right, when you look at those columns, a view of how many systems are leveraging that storage and the percentage of quota that is allocated and actually in use. And then down below there, I can look at my reservation policies, and again, at a multi-tiered application level or an individual VM level, as I create those different workloads, I can assign different levels of storage and also reservation policies there. So when you think about just general purpose, I may assign a predominant number of applications to a general purpose silver level tier with no reservation. If I have a couple of those applications that happen to be VIPs within that tier, I can also give them reservations so that they are guaranteed in times of contention for the resource. I can guarantee them that they will get their share of storage resource. That way they're not starved. It may be a latency sensitive application. So I can, even though it's a lower level of storage that they're sharing among other workloads, I can guarantee that they will get the SLA needed so as not to cause any application timeouts or end user complaints. Again, those reservations kicking in only at times of contention, so that way hopefully all the applications can live and play together well in the majority of cases, the majority of time. So in summary, what we're looking at here is redefining or expanding the scope of software-defined data center beyond just the abstracted virtualization level. So being able to add some hardware-centric capabilities here, all within the tools that customers are deploying now and using to manage their environment, 99% of the time, that being vCenter server as well as the VRealize automation stack. So that's what this is all about, and hopefully the integration work we've done with XClarity at the VRealize automation and orchestration server levels are going to be very valuable to customers that are looking at both private, public, as well as hybrid cloud infrastructures. So probably, and this is kind of the end of the VMworld-centric portion that we created, again, back a couple of months ago, and we're going to transition a little bit now, but it might be a good time to open it up for any questions that you may have so far, if that's possible, Kevin, or do you want to save everything, questions for the end?
No, I've been watching the chat session and nobody has typed anything in there, so I think we just keep going. If they had questions, normally they would put it into the chat and I'd make sure you knew about it.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and go forward. So in case you haven't heard thus far, and this is just really going to be an overview of the Lenovo Think Agile solution that we've just unveiled really about a week ago at Gartner, and really I guess before that at Microsoft's Ignite event down in Atlanta, but certainly unveiling it more in a large way across the industry at the Gartner Symposium last week in Orlando, Florida. So this is probably what we would have liked to have inserted or injected into our VMworld demo at the time back in late August, but we really weren't ready to publicly announce this yet. So we had to pull back from that. We actually had the hardware in place in our lab to build this out, but we weren't quite ready from a timing perspective to introduce this. So, and yeah, I apologize for the slide build up here. The automation probably should have taken that out before now, but yeah, what we've done with Think Agile is provide more of an engineered solution to assist customers and actually putting together something like this SDDC environment in a more predictable and right-sized manner without having to spend weeks building it out, putting all these building blocks together all by yourself. So really, when you look at today's data centers, they're an assortment of IT silos, and the biggest portion of that work effort, if you will, is in the life cycle or maintenance of the environment itself, with 60% of that time spent going towards managing the environment itself rather than doing innovation work or anything else. So we're trying to bend that down or compress that cycle down to make it much more time to market and less time spent for our customers actually keeping the lights on, if you will. So what we've introduced is Think Agile, and that's a Lenovo brand that's going to be based on a pre-racked infrastructure. So it's going to be right-sized for customer environments based on their workloads and the size of their deployment, and expandable beyond that as they go forward. But taking that 60% of time spent keeping the lights on down to about 10% to allow IT to provide innovation and new capabilities, work more on project-oriented work that move the business forward, but makes customers more competitive within their particular industry instead of just constantly building and tearing down solutions and hardware and the infrastructure. So as we look at the different consumption models that we have out there today, and really what we've been talking about all along on this call is more on the far right, the software-defined. A lot of customers aren't there yet in terms of software-defined infrastructure, but that's where things are heading. So if you look at this from traditional on the far left, that's kind of where most customers are today. They acquire storage from their storage vendor, software from their software vendor, network from their network vendor, and certainly the systems from their particular favorite OEM of choice. And that's all discrete pieces that we try to cobble together and make work, hopefully in a fashion that the customer had intended from the beginning. So that can be hard to deploy. The integration and interoperability can be a challenge for customers. So one thing that we're trying to move towards more engineered solutions is towards convergence, and that would be having a single entity, maybe a single part number that you order from Lenovo that has all of those discrete components built in and engineered or sized according to your needs, rather than just trying to guess and hopefully order the right things across all those different disciplines. So that's what we've done with Think Agile, and then building upon that, we'll also have hyper-converged capabilities within that, so that we're building the management, storage, and servers together as a single entity on commodity compute servers. So that will also be an offering to provide more IT agility moving forward, even beyond traditional storage arrays. And then we move, of course, into a further abstraction layer with software-defined. So the ability to add a further abstraction layer on top of this that's more workload-centric once you've moved into a 100% virtualized environment. Now I can have those workflows and service catalogs that we've been talking about earlier to be able to provide the right type and size of compute, storage, and networking for that particular customer application. So with Think Agile, again, this is kind of an overview of what this looks like. The key commonality across all of these is having centralized management. So having the XClarity administrator either as a standalone tool or more appropriately integrated into the vCenter or Microsoft System Center, and also into the software-defined data center stack as well. With VMware, that would be VRealize Automation. So having that common management interface at the level that you want to access it at, whether that's standalone or, again, integrated into the virtualization tools or the cloud-centric tools. And then across all these different tiers of deployment methodologies, if you will. So from traditional, I select all the components myself, to the converged, where let Lenovo do the heavy lifting for you, on to hyper-converged, again, combining compute and storage into a single stack, and then having the management capability on top of that, and then composable, having really customer-centric right-size solutions, and selecting the storage separately, possibly, but then also including the virtualized stack around that. So right now, what we're starting with is converged with the Think Agile, and then we'll move forward as we go down the road with hyper-converged software-defined infrastructure and composable architecture as we move forward. So Think Agile is going to from day one, support mixed workloads and environments. We'll certainly have some sizings and tools around being able to, for example, for SQL Server or Microsoft Exchange or virtual desktop, we'll have sizing tools that allow you to plug in your particular needs around virtual desktops or SQL Server, or how many Exchange mailboxes you're going to have, the size of those mailboxes. So we'll have that capability to provide right-size solutions coming out of the factory that are pre-integrated with the level of on-site installation and support and services that you need from 0 to however many days, depending on the level of service and support that you want to get off the ground and running in a timely fashion. So we'll be able to support those mixed workloads, whether it's traditional applications, VDI, enterprise databases, virtual desktop, all the way through multi-site, multi-location disaster recovery solutions as well, having resources in multiple data centers or even branch office environments. So we're designing this to be very flexible, but also have some engineered excellence around whatever your particular deployment model might be. So the Lenovo Think Agile CX Series. This first iteration is going to be based on nimble storage. So this will be all flash or hybrid dedicated storage arrays that you see at the bottom of the rack here. So this will also be based initially on our 1U 2-socket systems, the 3550 M5 Broadwell-based servers, and our top-of-rack switching, so 1 gigabit and 10 gigabit Lenovo networking switches at the top. So all of this will be more of a solution-centric approach, and will be ordered in a rack-based increment. It will be expandable as well, so customers that want to start out small and then expand within the rack, they'll be able to do that by ordering additional components, whether that's additional storage shelves to expand the capacity and throughput of the storage array, or individual compute nodes to expand out the Exchange or VDI, for example, workloads as they go from pilot phase to deploying to more and more end users in a VDI environment. So again, designed to be kind of a single part number, single management entity from a support and ordering standpoint to make it much easier to manage for our customers. So the time to deploy should be greatly reduced as opposed to ordering separate, again, separate entities and trying to put those together in a rack in the customer environment. So again, this was announced back during Microsoft Ignite on October 17th and further disclosed and demonstrated at Gartner Symposium last week. And here you see the initially the 3 t-shirt sizes, if you will, and the kind of the target audience around those. So with the entry level, we're using this is the CX2200. So this is using a nimble CS1000 hybrid array. So it's a combination of SSDs as well as spinning disks within the storage array. So the start off here, the starting point would be as small as 4 3550 M5 servers up to 8. And that's all going to be housed in a 25U rack. Everything's factory integrated, everything cabled and pre-tested from the factory. So it's going to arrive at the data center floor in a rack with everything already built out. And again, minimal professional services to get that up and running in your environment, although you can have obviously as much help as needed there. If you want more of a turnkey deployment around your particular application, then that's available as well, whether it's VDI, SQL Server, Microsoft Exchange. So basically as small or as large service increment as you'd like to get your applications up and running. The next size up from the entry is a medium. It's also hybrid storage. But we move here to the CS3000 hybrid array, a little bit more capability there, 4 10 gigabit SFP plus ports per controller for iSCSI, 42 terabytes of raw storage, and an optional 42 terabytes of expansion. So pretty good capacity here, also supporting 4 to 8 compute nodes in the top. And you see at the bottom there, your switches remain the same. 2 1 gigabit Lenovo switches, mostly for management, and then 2 10 gigabit switches for production LAN and storage traffic. Then we also have a medium to high that includes the Nimble all-flash storage array. This is based on the Nimble AF5000 all-flash array. And again, you can see the numbers there towards the bottom on the right. So you begin with 46 terabytes of raw all-flash storage with that array fully populated, and then you can add a storage expansion shelf with 46 terabytes of additional storage capacity, and then obviously multiplying the IOPS and the throughput significantly as you add more SSD all-flash storage to that array. And again, that one, that all-flash will be targeted more at high-end database work around Oracle and SQL Server, and maybe for some VDI environments as well that have higher use case scenarios for their end users.
They got a question.
Okay.
Came up on the chat. It says, does this have any association to Nutanix, or is it competitive? Just curious, as they have, of course, have Agile at scale.
Right. Yeah. Very good question. And so, from a storage perspective, within this particular stack we're talking about, and this is again the first one out the door. So, Think Agile will be a family of products and solutions going forward from Lenovo, and this just happens to be the first one out of the gate. It also coincidentally happens to be net new from a relationship standpoint for Lenovo. We've never sold Nimble storage as part of a solution before, so this does represent a different and new entity for Lenovo on the storage side. And yes, it is competitive to our Lenovo HX appliances, which are Nutanix powered. So it's this first iteration that we're talking about with Nimble is more of a traditional offering that's been put into more of an engineered solution to right-size that and pre-rack and stack and integrate the management and the networking tools for you. So yes, it would be deemed competitive to both HX as well as the other hyperconverged offerings we have, whether it's VMware vSAN or SimpliVity or DataCore. Moving forward, we will have some of those solutions as well. So we will certainly have hyperconvergence as part of Think Agile. Naming to be determined. I've seen early naming where most of the converged infrastructure that utilizes more traditional storage would have the CX name, and perhaps the Nutanix offering would have an HX name. So when you look at that, the biggest part that would change is really just taking out the Nimble storage, and certainly the compute side would become hyper-converged. So it would be compute plus the storage stack with Nutanix HX. But yes, it would certainly be a customer preference there. If they like Nutanix, and certainly a lot of our customers do, and they also like the Think Agile idea of having everything pre-integrated and pre-tested from the factory to speed a Nutanix deployment even faster, if that's possible, than what you have now. It's pretty quick to bring up. You may just not like the rack and stack and cabling part of it, and the switch configuration. So if you don't like the hardware nuts and bolts part of any deployment, including Nutanix, then certainly you may be very interested going forward when we have a Think Agile member of the family, if you will, that's based on Nutanix. So you don't have to fool with all that rack and stack and integration and installing the the XClarity piece and integrating everything there. So yeah, long answer, but just I would consider this certainly competitive to Nutanix from day one, but also it will be, the Think Agile brand itself will be complementary going forward. And while I'm thinking about it, I would mention that, just to go back and kind of talk again about the whole SDDC stack. We do have this now. We've been able to insert. It's not really factory built, but we were able to insert now the Nimble array into our existing SDDC demo that we built. Again, that was built on VSAN and StoreWise V7000. We were able to rather easily insert this Think Agile CX array, excuse me, into that environment. So now we have Nimble hybrid storage running as well. So this kind of goes to the point that once you've built out a software-defined data center infrastructure, it's not very difficult to insert different hardware technology under the covers and make it a part of that overall virtualized management cloud environment, and then migrate workloads back and forth as you have older systems coming off lease, older storage, you're ready to retire in favor of new, flash-centric storage or whatever the case may be. Once you have your VRealize automation stack up and running, it makes it certainly easier from a migration standpoint for your workloads moving from older technology to newer technology. And we certainly have quite a variety, Heinz 57 variety of hardware that we have right now under this SDDC demo in the lab, including the new Nimble array.
Another question came up. Transceivers are all included with the switches, or we add as needed? Then second part of that is, how flexible are changes? For example, if a customer wants more 10 gig controllers, for example, or can we expand later? Example of 128 gigs of memory to 512 later.
Yes, that is expandable. So this is not you're not locked in. It's not a closed appliance, if you will. So there are certain things that are fixed, I would say. We contractually, just so you know, for now, we can't sell the Nimble as a standalone array within Lenovo. So it's got to be part of a Think Agile solution. On down the road into next year, we will be able to sell Nimble just like we sell, our own S series today as a standalone product. But in terms of being able to modify or add to the stack you see here, then absolutely we'll be able to do that. There are no restrictions and really no software licensing royalty costs around adding to this infrastructure later, including being able to add memory. So there are some limitations, but in general, you'll be able to. And you see one of those listed here on the left table. If you look at the memory, then you can see that 768 gigabyte configuration not available in CX 2200. So we have tried to engineer the solution and basically prevent anybody from shooting themselves in the foot in terms of oversizing the compute nodes beyond what the array will handle. So when we say up from 4 to 8 compute nodes or the low-end offering, then yeah, we're not going to support going 12 compute nodes simply because we feel, based on the reference architectural work we've done, that you're going to begin to outstrip the capabilities of that particular nimble array. Again, this is because this is an engineered solution, and we certainly need to stand behind what we've put together in terms of an overall solution. So later on down the road, it will be, every man for himself. Feel free to shoot yourself in the foot by ordering individual discrete parts of nimble and networking and compute. But for this, we certainly have some engineering and some real testing behind this, so that hopefully we're putting out something that meets a 90% use case as we go from small, medium, large. But no software will be attached to this. Go ahead,
Phil. Here, the other thing to keep in mind with the Agile concept is it comes as a rack level unit. So one of the big challenges in a lot of data center operations is integrating the various different OEM products together, so getting support for them, troubleshooting issues. So as part of the build the rack in the factory, it all comes pre-installed, pre-cabled, pre-everything. ESXi is preloaded on most of these machines anyways, based upon whatever workload solution they're built for, so even the software is preloaded. The other follow-on benefit is if down the road there's a problem, bug, issue, whatever, and you end up calling support, you call based on the rack serial number. So now support knows this is the physical configuration of the rack that we shipped out, and this is how everything's plugged in. These are all the devices. These are all the memories. We know what firmware is running. We control the firmware structure for the entire rack. So homogeneously, it becomes a much more supportable and manageable environment rather than a hodgepodge of different things. It's now integrated together and supported as an integrated unit. And as I was saying, very flexible. The first few things will be reasonably fixed just because it's new. But the structure is, not all shoes fit everybody. One shoe doesn't fit everybody. So we're going to come up with more and more varieties of this. Once again, pre-configured, pre-engineered, built as a homogeneous unit, so we can ensure viability and supportability for that rack. Sorry, Baker.
Oh no, that's perfect. That's good flavor. That's an important point as well. I mean, I mentioned earlier maybe single part number, single serial number, so that as Phil mentioned, when you call into support, they're going to own the entire stack, Lenovo support. So they're going to know what you're calling in on. They're going to know your environment and know all the individual parts and pieces that make up that solution, both hardware and software. So you're not spending time having to explain, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I've got this 10 gig Lenovo switch at the top. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I'm connected to nimble hybrid array storage. So yeah, that's going to be a very good user experience in terms of getting support quickly and having them understand exactly what you're doing and what you have that you're calling in on.
Another question came up. Is there a sizing guide to help understand which solution is ideal for the customer?
Yes, and I saw a preview of that. So it's actually right now it's an Excel spreadsheet. It may remain that way, but it's that will be provided as well. It's a fairly sophisticated tool that allows you to plug in your workload types, whether that's database or VDI, and the mix of virtual machines you have, and IOP requirements, storage requirements, and you'll be able to get a recommendation. And that recommendation is going to include options, not just, okay, you have to purchase this particular configuration. So it's going to give you options based on, this is going to be middle of the road, this is going to marginally provide the performance you need, or this is going to really provide the performance and growth that you need over the next however many months or years. So it will actually give you that timeline of if you plug in there 10% growth per year of my virtual machines based on these metrics I've plugged in, then here's what you're looking at down the road. Here's what you're looking at, 12, 24, 36 months down the road as how you're utilizing that capacity and when possibly you reach a tipping point, needing to add more capacity, either compute or storage or both. So again, those tools are coming. It's looking very promising. We gave some feedback yesterday about some things they may want to tweak and add, but there will be, and again, these are not just kind of pie in the sky numbers that we're rolling out here. These are based on input from Nimble themselves about the capabilities of their array and the testing they've done and what they've seen from their existing customer set, as well as real lab testing on our part with the 3550 and the Nimble array. So it's using tools like login VSI for VDI, for example, being able to build very realistic user workloads and determining where the bottlenecks are, and then saying, okay, yeah, here's where we reach a breaking point for this particular configuration. So here's what we can recommend based on that. So those tools will be coming out. I suspect they will be out hopefully by next week. I'll be able to share those. Those will be available both to our sellers and our partners and our customers. Okay, let's see if I can page down here and look at the
next question came in. How are these configured today? I don't see an option in Xconfig.
Yeah, those have not been added into Xconfig as of yet. They will be in there. I'm not sure. Good question, because I don't know all the tools that will be provided, but I do believe that LEFC and Xconfig are two tools that will have this in there. It just hasn't been loaded yet. So right now, if a customer wanted to order this today, I would go back to the worldwide team, and we would use their sizing guide and plug in the numbers there and get that order for you as a basically a build to order for now. But yeah, that's coming. That's definitely coming into the standard configuration tools.
Let's see. A reply came from somebody said these are already in the LESC tool.
Oh, so they are already there. Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if they loaded those yet or not. So, yeah, that should be coming as well to Xconfig, and I doubt it's going to be in SSCT for obvious reasons. That doesn't really support the custom factory integration within that tool. So if you're not using LESC right now, you may want to go take a look at that and kick the tires on the configuration options that are available currently with Agile. I know we're running out of time quickly, and we're almost to end of job. I only have about 5 or 6 slides available or left. So yeah, keep the questions coming about this. Just a quick look at the software stack of what is included. Again, this is the first iteration. So if you don't happen to be a VMware shop or you're transitioning to Hyper-V, don't be troubled. We certainly, going forward, will have a Microsoft System Center, an Azure Stack-centric offering around Think Agile. So this just happens to be what we're leading with out of the gate with Nimble and with vSphere and vCenter. So, in regards to the Nutanix-centric offering that we'll have not too far down the road at all, we'll probably have a Acropolis hypervisor. So we'll have a true, we'll call it an all Nutanix offering. So certainly you'll be able to have a VMware as well as Hyper-V with Nutanix, but a core offering of that will be the Acropolis hypervisor or AHV and Prism-based solution around Think Agile for Nutanix. And of course, one common denominator across the whole stack would be the XClarity administrator integration with vCenter and with SDDC if you happen to deploy the cloud piece there. Okay, paging down. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Oh, went too far. Should have known. A little bit of lag time there. So I'll try to go back up one slide. I'll just cover this slide just quickly. This is kind of just a closer look. Okay, now we transition. So these are some of the reference architectures that are in process. Some of these are probably complete now. So again, sooner rather than later, especially these first 3 to 4, you'll see these either already available or coming out very soon in terms of the application solutions that have been sized in the lab and tested. So we'll have reference architectures around those for both VMware and Citrix VDI stack, as well as SQL Server and Microsoft Exchange. I believe initially those first 4 will all be on VMware in terms of a hypervisor. Maybe the Citrix stack will be on Hyper-V as well, and then we'll expand that out to different hypervisors going forward. Then the VRealize stack as well, and then Microsoft Data Warehouse. And that one will probably be based on Hyper-V and Azure stack going forward. But some of these are already completed, and others are in the works, and we'll have these out as we move forward with different offerings around Think Agile. And just a quick look at the Nimble array. So it's basically designed to be set it and forget it, so you're not spending a lot of time as an administrator or a storage administrator having to carve up LUNs and right size your storage based on different application needs. So Nimble has something called InfoSight predictive analytics that do a lot of that work for you in terms of making sure the resources available to the workloads as needed. And again, this is where some of that software-defined storage integration stack can really benefit you, so that you can take a noisy neighbor type of application that is asking for maybe a lot of storage that you don't want to give him, or a lot of IOPS or throughput that you don't necessarily want to give him. So you can start to build a fence or provide reservations or limits around what an individual application can consume. And you do all that at the administrator, vCenter, or cloud administrator level, so you're not having to go back to your lower level storage tools to do those tweaks and those tunings at that point. So it's very good from a ease of use standpoint. Okay, we're almost there. If we go down to the next page, so there we go. All right, another build up here. So again, just as we've moved from really more of a hybrid environment that we tend to have today over to an all-flash environment. So these are now mainstream now. This is not like something just for exotic 1% of our workloads. So it's very quickly, and hyperconvergence has probably given us a big boost in that. So SSDs and all-flash storage, whether it's hyperconverged or something like a Nimble array, those are mainstream now and kind of a requirement for storage moving forward. The prices have come down from the hardware standpoint, and it's something that we can now intelligently deploy that is useful across all of our workloads, from the very high-end intense database applications down to the lower tier apps as well. And again, with Nimble's predictive storage utilization metrics that they have built into the array, it's going to be able to do some automation as far as getting the IOPS and the throughput where it's needed based on our application requirements and metrics there. Again, so as far as the overall deployment of the solution, when it's a Think Agile solution, this is going to give you the pre-integration. It's going to be sold, shipped, and supported by Lenovo as a single unit. with everything pre-configured and ready to deploy. In the on-site deployment, you'll be able to select as little or as much help as you want from our professional services group, depending on whether you want this to be just, hey, just get the hardware up and running and integrate it into my environment, and I'll take it from there, all the way through a complete, knowledge transfer, and then post-deployment. We can have ongoing predictive analytics as well, so we can come back in and do health checks as necessary, and we provide that single experience as far as the entire stack as being one entity in terms of remote technical support. So again, we built the services around this as well so that you don't have any surprises when you need help from Lenovo and call the 1-800 number. I don't know if everybody else is getting a beep or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from. I'm looking and everybody's on mute except for the three of us. So.
Okay. All right, so that's kind of unbearable, but anyway, just a look at, again, at the support and warranty. So there'll be options, from 3 years, 4-hour response all the way up to a maximum 5-hour warranty, 5-year warranty upgrade. So those can be added at the time of purchase or can be added later. As you approach the end of a 3-year maintenance agreement, you can add years 4 and 5 as needed to extend the life cycle of the Think Agile solution. And I'm going to just kind of click through these remaining two. I know we're almost at the end of our time here. But any other questions that we might have or comments, I would certainly love to hear whether or not this is something that looks like it's an interesting solution for your data center, your environment. Or not.
I think it's coming from Philip because I can mute him and it's beeping.
Yeah, I know he did say he had lost audio a little while ago, so maybe that's him trying to get back in. So anyway, we're very excited about this solution, not just the partnership with Nimble that gives us yet another industry-leading storage offering in our portfolio, but just the overall ability now to offer an engineered solution, if you will, that's right-sized for a customer environment, pre-tested, pre-racked and stacked and cabled, that we can roll in and really speed the time to value for our customers on deploying Lenovo infrastructure into their data center. So again, it's starting out with a Nimble offering, and then we'll quickly expand beyond that as we move forward. But sorry, we don't have a full demo to show you today. As Bill mentioned, we had our we've had to return some hardware and had some other hardware that was decommissioned. So we have the basics up and running, but we need to really add more to the environment so that we can show actual deployments, laying down a template or a configuration pattern to a net new piece of hardware that's just been cabled up and deploying ESX, deploying workloads. So right now, about the only thing I'd be able to show you is the base tools, the integration with vCenter of XClarity, as well as our workflow with the VRealize automation, the Lenovo-centric things we've added there to the VRealize stack. But certainly do appreciate your time, and if you would like to see a more in-depth view of this, including a demo, please do let us know. We try to have our environment up and available for remote demo purposes, and even for remote proof of concepts for something more in-depth to help our partners and customers out. But with that, if there aren't any questions, I will turn it back over to you, Kevin. I think Phil is still unable to connect audio at this point.
Yeah, I think he's still having problems, but I haven't seen any more questions. Are there any questions? Feel free to post them up here in the chat session, and we'll get them answered for you.
I would say one thing I would like to see, and I'm sure we'll see this, as we move forward, as this evolves a little bit, is particularly for a VDI environment, which is one of my specialties that I focus on, the 3650 is going to come into play there. That would be a useful platform just from a GPU standpoint for customers that need higher-end graphics for their VDI environment. And certainly we want to be able to introduce the NVIDIA grid cards. Certainly the Tesla M60 that we've added to the portfolio for those higher-end graphics needs in a VDI environment, which is becoming more and more prevalent. So you'll see both the 2U servers as well as you'll see the Flex offering in here as well. So we'll have our Lenovo Flex blade chassis and integrated network switches as part of the Think Agile offering moving forward. So it's, you know, it's certainly not going to be limited to 1U pizza box servers and the Nimble array. We're going to have a very large chunk of our overall hardware portfolio that is introduced into the Think Agile brand as we move forward. But right now it's 25U racks for the smaller solution, and then the 42U racks, everything pre-integrated with Nimble storage.
Well, there's no more questions coming in, so thank you, Baker and Philip, for the presentation today. But at this point, I think we will end the meeting, and the slide deck is posted out there already, and the replay will be posted later this afternoon.
Yep. Thanks for your time, everyone. Have a great day.